I got the knee joint figured out. In this video, we're going to start working on the ankle joint and the hip joints. And then if there's still time, we'll start shaping the legs. Welcome to the Grumpy Old Guy Wood Carving Studio. Let's get started. I always put in a center line first. That way I know how much. I'm going to put a center line on all the surfaces, all the faces here. That way I have an idea how much I'm taking off, and then I can repeat the process. And on the other leg, try to match those up as close as possible. Sorry if I had that up too high. I'm just drawing a line, center line. Okay, you can start cutting from here. On my glove. And start by just rounding. Get that basic shape of the leg down. I'm trying to engineer this as I go. Never built one. I don't have any plans for one. I just have a basic idea of how it's done. But the hip joint, the leg and the hip joint here hinge right at the bottom here. I want wherever those lines are. But I've carved away the front of the leg, and I need to take some more off because I want the leg to be able to come up almost parallel so that it looks like it's sitting. And I want to take away a little bit more on the back of the leg. Well, actually I haven't taken any off the back of the leg, but I need to take off enough where the leg can hinge back just a little bit. I don't want it to go all the way back. That would look weird. Let's see where. Try a little bit more here. I had to stop and start doing some thinking because I was starting to get ahead of myself a little bit. I took two pattern pieces. This is the upper leg and the lower leg. And the lower leg is going to be indented into the upper leg and hinged at that point. But I have to cut away this slot from the back of the leg to right about there on the front of the leg. This is the front of the leg right here. So I want this is the part where the lower leg will hinge into the back of the leg. So I need to cut that groove out before I go any further. I'm using a fine tooth saw. This just happens to be a fret saw to use for cutting the frets in the guitar necks or banjo necks or any instrument, stringed instrument neck. Any fine tooth saw will work. I'm not going all the way. Just kind of giving myself, try to cut as much as I can to make it a little easier to remove some of that wood in that slot. Because like I said, I can't go all the way to the front of the leg. There's noise. It's pretty noisy, so I might have to do some silence this and dub some voiceover. Tighten this down a little more. Should have done this before I started carving. That's why I stopped doing the carving on the leg to shape it, because as you can see, once this gets rounded, it'll be harder to hold in the clamp. Probably isn't the best as far as woodworking goes, but I'm going to use this drill bit, drill out part of this. I'm not going to drill out the whole thing. I just remove some of this wood before I guess I better plug it in first. All right. That's about all I'm going to do. I don't want to mess it up too much. So then I'll just take a small chisel, gouge, and clean that out. Of course, do this one, and then I'll have to smaller gouge. I'll have to do the same thing to the other leg. So after I finish this one, I got a lot to clean out here, so I'll be back. We'll get the groove cut out in the upper part of the leg, and it looks like I might have enough room there for that leg to work, but I'm gonna have to take the lower part of the leg and cut out this little thing that sticks up into the leg there, and see if it works. I think a note to myself is, in the next one that I make, if I make another marionette, is to make sure all the joints work before doing the actual shaping on all the different parts. I'm going to use the bandsaw to quickly get out these shapes a little bit better on this lower leg, so I can now just use my pocket knife to round this over without cutting myself. I should put my glove on. Now I have to cut this part out so it'll fit up inside here. Yeah, we're getting a little closer here. I think I need to cut this groove in a little bit further to the front and maybe make this a little bit deeper here so that this sticks out a little bit further away from the leg. And then I might have to do some trimming. We'll drill a hole in there and stick a pin in there and see if it'll turn, but I can already tell that I might have to trim away a little bit of the back of the leg. We're getting close. This is fun. Like I said, I've never done this before, and I'm trying to figure it out as I go along. I drilled a little hole and stuck a pin in there, and just as I suspected, I have to trim a little bit off the back of the upper leg in here so that it can move further. Trimmed off a little bit on the back of the upper leg, and then I also had to trim off a little bit of this tab here because that was starting to hang up. I'm putting my pin on the inside of the leg, because I don't want it to show from the outside. Yep. There we go. I've got, it's a little tight. I'm going to clean it up a little bit. But I think we're on the right track now. We got upper and lower leg joint. I think that's all I really need right there, is that much right there. All right, now I got to do the same thing to the other leg. Got the knee joint done for both the right and the left leg now. I could start shaping these, but I think I might do the ankle joint first. We're going to start working on the ankle joint now. It's a similar type of joint as the knee joint. It's got a tab that fits into a groove, and it's got a pin that gives it a rotation point or swivel point. On the lower part of the leg, it'll fit into a groove on the top of the boot, and another pin to give it a swivel joint. So let's get started on that. Got my pattern drawn on my boots, and I like to mark the bottoms with a right and a left because they are shaped differently. You've got the curve of the foot on the inside of the boot, and I don't want to get those mixed up when I go to put everything together. First thing I did for the ankle joint is to mark out the little tab that will go into the boot, and then I marked out a little space in the boot, and this depth is about 3/8. So I'm going to set my drill press up and just drill out the center of this to remove some of this excess waste, and that'll make it easier for me to use a chisel to move some of this material. I can go as far as, I think I already said, 3/8 of an inch deep. Got the drill bit set for 3/8 of an inch, and we're only going to really make one hole because the rest of it should be able to get out with the chisel. So yeah, I'm sorry about the angle and you're not close enough to actually see what's going on, but just imagine drilling a hole. That's basically all I'm going to do, is just drill a hole 3/8 of an inch deep. Hang on, I hope. Basically all I'm going to do. I'm going to do the same thing on the other one. Yes, I know there's probably safer ways to do it, but don't do this at home. Got the ankles done and the knees, and this is just a prototype. I already see some things I might change if I ever do another little marionette. The next step will be to work on the hip joints. Right now I'm trying to figure out positioning and how much wood to take off so that his legs will rotate. I don't need him to go back too far. I want more. I've got plenty for him to go forward. And again, this is a prototype, so I'm just trying to figure out what I'm doing here. But I want him to go forward more than I want it to go back because he's not doing yoga. but he may be closer to a sitting position going in this direction and walking position. Yeah, sure is. And I'm not a puppeteer, so he's just probably going to be hanging in the background. These aren't hinged the same way as the knee and the ankle. It's a screw that goes through the leg and then into the centerpiece here. The hole for the screw has to be larger than the screw because I don't want it to hold it. I want it to spin easily and then have to countersink the screw head so that it doesn't stick out. So I'm almost done with this part. I think I need to take some more off the front of the legs here so his legs come up more parallel, and that way he can achieve a seating position and sit him on the end of the bench or on a shelf that I'll put up. And there's his legs, all hinged. I might make an adjustment to the knee joints because there's still quite a bit of, then again, like I said, it's just a prototype. I'll make changes on the next one. I'm happy. All right, the next step will be to start shaping the legs and the boots, and then we'll move on to the arms, the hands. I'll have to bore a hole to stick the neck piece in. This will be the neck piece here because this will be rounded, a domed top. The head will sit on top of that and be able to swivel back and forth and move the controllers. I love how moss just covers everything. Turns it into an enchanted forest. Ferns and moss. Thanks again for joining me in the Grumpy Old Guy Woodcarving Studio. In the next episode, we're going to be working on shaping the legs, the boots, and then get into working on the arms and maybe the neck. Now get off my lawn.